Hello, everybody. My name is Edward S. Redcar, and I'm the host of Edward S. Redcar's Entertainer Chat. And today I have the awesome pleasure of speaking with Alexander Clark. So, welcome to the show, Alexander. And how are you doing today?
Thank you, Edward, and thank you for having me on the show. And yeah,
Uh,
I'm doing good. I'm
Good, good. That sounds good. Thank you for graciously accepting my invitation to be on the show. And uh, we'll have a we'll have a lot of fun, guaranteed, talking back and forth, learning
yeah,
about learning about you and your career. And I know my audience, they always have fun too. So let me start out by asking, which I start asking each one of my guests, whether they're musicians, singers, actors, whatever. Uh, I'll ask you the question. How did you become interested in acting?
um, it's kind of a weird story to be fair because I've been acting since I was seven, doing like amateur dramatics since I was seven, and obviously moving on to obviously doing professional work. But I got into it actually one day just by going to the theatre. My parents took me to see a pantomime with King Rat in it, which is like a villainous character, and it scared the hell out of me because I was only like about I think I was about six and a
Mhm.
half, seven-ish, and I just sort of just caught the bug since then and started going to like just like Saturday classes, acting workshops and such,
Mhm.
and it's never left me. It's
That's,
something that I've always loved since I was a little kid.
mhm.
Obviously,
Mhm.
I'm a 30-year-old guy now, so it's been with me for a long
Yeah.
time.
Well, I think it would be safe for me to say that ever since that first encounter with entertainment, that like they say, you caught the acting bug way back then, right?
That is very true. That's what they say, and
Yeah.
I think I'm
So,
sure a lot of actors would say it.
when you got introduced into the theater or whatever with that pantomime, was it the fact that the pantomime that they didn't speak? That is that what kind of made you uneasy
No,
when you were a child that you
no,
heard that?
no, it wasn't. It was the fact of the matter is the guy they got to play King Rat was. I mean, I'm 6'4", and obviously as a 7 year old I wasn't. This
Wow.
guy might be because I actually met him a couple of years obviously afterwards because he was part of the same theatre company that I was part of. He's about 6'8", so he's a
Wow.
really tall guy, really to a 7 year old dominating like he just filled the space. Um, and so to me, having to be just like looking up and like sort of thing, it did freak me out. But I went with my brother as well. My twin brother he was actually the same. He went to watch the pantomime with me, but he didn't catch the acting bug. He just got scared. Um, yeah,
Well, you got scared. You overcame your fear, and then you just forged ahead. You
yeah.
said I'm going to go for this, fear or no fear. I'm just going to like
Oh yeah,
forge right
yeah.
ahead, right?
Hell yeah. I mean, you've got to have that sort of fearlessness with acting because it's such an up in the air sort of job.
Oh
So
yes,
you've got to be fearless. You've got to be
yep.
sort of very determined and
Hmm. Hmm.
just
Yeah,
push on, just sort of chip away.
yeah. You mentioned about your height there. Of course, I've never met you personally, as with a lot of my guests on the show. I've never met them, actual face to face. I did not realize that you were that tall.
Yeah.
And also, I read about it in one of your posts. I don't know if it was in Instagram or Facebook, but I know you mentioned your height, like in one of your posts. It could have been, Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, seeing each other like this, we can't tell how tall or short we are. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, I says, I didn't realize Alexander was that tall. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So then after you caught the acting bug, and say like, when you were in school, like the smaller grades or the higher grades, were you involved like in any theater productions when you were going to school?
Um, yeah, I mean, I was in some. I wasn't in all of them. I was in some, and I'll be honest. Like I even though I love it, like especially in school, I didn't do as much of it as I would have loved to. Um, it seemed to be sort of like the same people who would do like the same sort of thing. So didn't get many chances in high school and stuff, but like that's just it is what it is. It's high school. But yeah, I auditioned for a couple of things, obviously in high school. I obviously in college as well. Obviously outside because I also studied drama and performing arts at college. So outside that, I obviously was doing shows as well, or trying to do shows,
Mhm,
or
mhm.
trying to get some film work. So yeah, to answer your question, I from school, yes, I tried my very hardest to try and get some work. I was lucky enough to go to high school with such people as Louis Tomlinson, as
Oh,
people might know, from One Direction. He's from the same town as me in England,
mhm,
Doncaster.
mhm,
And obviously, you've seen the sort of career that he's had, as well as there are a couple of other people that
mhm,
have been lucky enough to go onto the West End, who've been from my school. But yeah, so
mhm.
I'm hopefully going to follow in their footsteps one day. You never know.
Yeah, well, yeah, you never know. Yeah, like you were mentioning about not being in theater, that much like in school. I think there's a lot of us that sort of follow the same path. People normally think, well, all of us people that are entertainers, they must have been doing it from, when they were infants all the way up to now, but I think they don't realize that those of us, we take a different path. And I myself was the same way. I acted like in the early grades in school when I was smaller. In later grades, I didn't do it at all. But then I started up again. That acting bug was still in the back of my mind. So I picked it up again, like in my mid 20s. And, like they say, the rest is history. So I think I think there's more than a few people that follow the same path that don't start
Yeah.
it on day one and then go straight through, for the rest of our lives. So I think sort of that's probably sort of a common thread, in a lot of us in the entertainment industry. And
Yeah.
since you've been done like a bit of work on stage, and then I also seen like online, you had your acting resume that listed like all the credits that you've done like up until now, and I noticed that um, you've acted in just a few more short films than you have like in feature films, and then also
Yeah.
you've done some voiceovers in some like the same projects that I did, like for Loud Voices, Silent Streets,
Yeah.
directed by L. Luna Musgrove, who started it. And so I was just wondering, like in the feature film category, do you eventually plan to work, say, more in feature films than in short films or on stage?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I am moving more towards features. I mean, I love shorts, I always will do, and I will happily do a short that comes to me. But yeah, I'm moving more towards features, and I'd love to also do more theatre as well because there's you don't. It's hard to explain because to those who've never been on a stage, to those who are watching, the feeling that you get being on stage, there isn't really anything that could sort of compare to it.
No, no,
Like, yeah, you having a camera like quite close to you on a feature film or a short film,
yeah, yeah.
or it doesn't really compute. It doesn't really match what you'd get with like theatre or immersive like theatre, which is something I've always loved. So it's something that I'd love to get back into.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know recently it's been the same thing for me that like ever since the advent of COVID and then Zoom taking like the forefront when everything was
Yeah,
closed down, and that's how I got involved with film was through Zoom, live plays, recorded plays. there again with Loud Voice of Silent Streets, and then also recorded films, recorded on Zoom, and then loaded up to like YouTube or social media or whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, I very much agree. There's nothing like it when you're on stage because you get that immediate feedback, right?
Yeah, well, you do. And it's not just that, like having the audience there, like you build off their energy. So, eh, I mean, depending on the scene, I mean, you could be doing a really heinous and quite a dramatic scene, and all of a sudden, you you're fed from the audience. So you like you say, you get initial feedback, you get automatic feedback, but you sort of you realize soon enough, like how to sort of use the audience to your advantage and how to actually bring them into it.
Mhm.
Um, like I always thought, and I've always will stand by it, that having an audience there really builds you as an actor. Doing theatre really builds you as an actor because you need to learn how to be big to be small, in my opinion. So with film, obviously you have to be your mannerisms and everything is so minute because the camera picks up on
Yes,
everything.
yes, yeah,
The camera
totally.
does the camera can tell when you're lying and it doesn't like when you lie to it. Whilst with a theatre production, you can sort of it's not a case of lying, it's more a case of drawing them one way and then just sort of going, oh, this is what I actually meant, and then them getting it. And it's like you said, the automatic feedback is well, there's nothing more I can really
Yeah,
say. There's nothing you can compare to it.
right. Yeah, yeah. I was going to say, like you mentioned, you can't compare it to anything. Yeah, I know that's one thing that I had to get used to. Like, I got my training, through experience on the stage. So then, when I had to switch to Zoom, which I feel was like a good training ground for the future, for actually being in front of a physical camera on a film
Yeah,
set. And yeah, I could not get over the fact, like you just mentioned, like the camera, everything is like super small and concentrated, no big actions, no big gestures or anything like that. So it took me some time. It was like a period of adjustment. So, like with you, was there that same, say, period of adjustment, say, when you first started to get into the short films to kind of trim your
oh yeah,
actions and everything else?
yeah. I mean, even to this day, like I have to really work at it because, especially with my facial gestures, like moving that from theatre to film, because film, like I said, and like you just illustrated, it's so minute. Like
Hmm.
every like the camera can pick up on like the smallest little detail of your eyelid twitching or your eyebrow moving or
Yeah.
anything, and everything has to have an intention. So when you look at film, when you look at some of the greats like Robert De Niro, you look at people like him,
Oh
and
yes. Oh
obviously
yeah.
Al Pacino and Daniel
Mm,
Day-Lewis, he's a
mm,
personal favorite of
mm.
mine. Everything that you see is there for a reason. So if it's too big, the audience is just going to be like, well, hmm, so certainly he's overacting. But
Yeah.
even the small things that even the other person, obviously playing against you, doesn't necessarily pick up with, the audience will do.
Right. Right.
Then the camera, the director, they'll all see it and they'll be like, "What was that? What was that little moment there?" And you've got to just you've got to be there to really uh, be able to explain
Yeah, I know.
explain yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, be in the moment. Yeah, yeah. That all reminds me. I'm taking an online acting class, and that's one of the things that they were covering, like you were saying, gestures, really small gestures. And the instructor, he told us, just as an exercise, he says, look into the camera, into our web cameras or whatever. He says, look into the camera. And he says, without moving a muscle in your face or an eyebrow, he says, think, you know, say like, think happy or think sad. Don't move anything. Don't move your eyes or anything. So he tried it on each one of us, and someone came on camera, and so he says, okay, now think of something else. They thought of something else, and something in their face moved. He says, no. He says, don't move a thing. And he says it's all in the eyes. It's like the camera can pick up if you're feeling different emotions in your eyes without even like
Yeah,
moving a muscle, a facial muscle.
it's
So
true. It's really true. The eyes are the
yeah.
winner to the soul, which is a very famous quote, and
Mm,
it's a quote that's true. It really is because if you look at, like I say, Robert De Niro, Daniel Day-Lewis, there's a single scene in one of my favorite films, actually, Last of the Mohicans, which Daniel Day-Lewis, you see the look of his face on his face, just from his eyes, not even looking at anything else, of when his obviously spoiler alert, but when his brother dies, um, and you just see that rage just come, and it's just
yes.
like in an instant, well, I want to kill you, I want to hurt you, and it's you just see it from him, and you just as an audience member, it grips you, it really does.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously, if you didn't if it was something else, you'd see something else. I mean, like this is the thing with film. Like I say, like the emotions that you feel might not to everybody else who's in the room, because obviously you'll have boom operators, you'll have first ADs and etc. They might not necessarily feel a thing. They might just be like, oh well, he's just talking.
Right.
Then they
Yeah.
look back at the monitors and they're like, he's not just talking.
Hmm.
Like it's you, yeah, you'll see something.
Right. Right. There's something behind the words that's connected to the eyes. Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, besides like all of your theater and short film and feature film and voiceover acting, I seen you posted a lot on your social media that you have a podcast that you started like about 4 years ago, and it's called the Acting the Industry, and the Instagram page for it, acting underbar the underbar industry underbar official. And so ever since you started it 4 years ago, how's it been going? And what's the nature of your program generally about your podcast?
I'll be honest. I've been trying to figure out like sort of a plan of being able to get it sort of off the ground. I'm still working on it. Um, Basically, the premise of it is it's giving sort of actors a voice from all different backgrounds. And it's also sort of hints and tips of sort of how the industry itself actually works and like the do's and don'ts with film and theatre, and obviously with what it might be with in front of a camera or obviously behind the camera. Um, so I am always looking for people to interview when I get it off the ground. Like I said, I've been trying to actually look for a studio to perhaps film it in. If not, what I'll do is just like I am now, is I will film it just at home.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, but we'll have to see, obviously, if anyone's interested.
mhm, mhm.
I need to what I'll do actually, to fair, later tomorrow actually is I will be obviously working on actually getting hold of the studio actually because yeah, I still need to hear back from them. But
Mhm.
there's a lot coming. Um, like I actually was looking for a co-host, which I'm still very open to. So if anyone who's watching, obviously anyone who is an actor or director, writer, anyone who obviously either wants to be interviewed
Mhm.
or wants to co-host, um, please get in touch with me. I'm sure Edward will be able to give you my details.
Oh,
But yeah,
sure, sure, sure.
yeah, it's
Yeah, at the
a lot to come.
sure at the end of this program in my closing sequence, closing credits, I always give the like both the Instagram and the Facebook page names of my guests. So yeah, they'll see that on the screen, and
Cool.
yeah, whoever is interested, they'll if they're interested, they'll come into contact with you. I noticed on your post that you mentioned another gentleman's name that you started the podcast with.
Oh
Is
yeah.
he still
Um,
part of that with you?
uh, Ben, a good friend of mine, Ben Blunt, who's an actor from Doncaster. He unfortunately wasn't able to stay involved with the acting industry, which is fine. Obviously, Ben's doing really well for himself at the moment.
Uh-huh.
He's got a lot of work going on, so I can understand, and hopefully somewhere down the line, he'll happy to maybe jump on back on board, maybe. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
have to see.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like that's the nature of this business, right? I mean, it's like ever changing, constantly flowing in different directions. People
Yeah,
get might have opportunities elsewhere that they want to follow, or a different medium, maybe film or stage or whatever. So yeah, it's ever changing. I know I found out, what you probably have too, in the entertainment business. It's like no 2 days are ever the same, right? They're
no,
always different.
yeah, they're always different, very
Yeah,
different.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
with your podcast, how often do you have each podcast? Like monthly or?
what I'm wanting to do, when I finally get off the ground, is do it once a week, or if
Mhm.
possible, once every 2 weeks. I do have an app called Anchor, which is a podcast app as well, which I'm going to try to utilize as well, and perhaps Spotify. So those who want to actually listen to it online, you can do,
Mhm.
and so try and get it worldwide if possible, or nationwide.
Oh, much luck for that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. So, up to now, have your podcasts been what platform have your podcasts been on?
At the moment, my podcast is just on Anchor.
Okay.
Um, so it's only got at the moment, just because obviously, like I say, it's been sort of up in the air. I've only got one episode, which I am actually planning on redoing, just because I'm the biggest issue with me is I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which is a bit of an issue. So
As
you can't be a
as we
perfectionist in the same.
yeah, as we all are. I totally agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's a big issue in this industry. You can't be a perfectionist. You just got to
no,
sort of
no. Well, it's like it's like just with my show. Like I record it like this, and after the interview's recorded, I add the beginning and ending sequences. The background theme music, the still photos, the promotional photos, and
mm,
um, yeah. I mean, you have to do the best you can without sort of leaving any uh, anything where you don't draw your complete attention to and your complete focus. But
yeah.
but yeah, you can try to be a perfectionist as much as you want, and I guess there's a point where you have to say, well, what I have done and put together, it's as good as I can put it together. It's as good as it's going to get, and let it fly that way, right? Yeah, you were talking all about your podcast that you started about 4 years ago. So, in the end, by continuing your podcast in the future, do you see that as becoming, say, more of an area that you'd like to stay into, or would you like to kind of balance that, like with your acting in film and stage?
Yeah, I'd probably like to balance it, um, because for me, acting will always almost first and foremost be what I want to do. But I'm happy to dive into different directions and try different things. So with podcasting, it gives me sort of an outlet to also help others as well. So obviously, like there's budding actors out there who just begun, and so there's a lot of things that they don't know that perhaps I might know, or there's things that I don't know that other people do. So it's
Yeah.
always best to sort of like collaborate and learn.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
you never get better, do you, by just
Right,
staying where
right.
you are? You've got to always try and work with people who obviously are who are better than you
Yeah,
in different fields. So just trying something new and giving me the option to collaborate and network is at the same time is great.
yeah. That's very true. You can never assume that you know all there is to know just because you've been in the business for a certain number of years. There's always something more to learn. There's always someone else that might be more experienced that you could tell you what you haven't experienced or thought of, along the way in, performing careers. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true. Yeah. Yeah. So in addition to your podcast, we've talked about your stage and your film endeavors. And I noticed in one of your posts that you're affiliated with quite a few like theater groups, Newcastle Theater Royal, etc. Theater Camden, the Theater Delhi, and his productions, and his shorts, which film.
Amethyst Shots which became Amethyst Productions, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and in fact, there was so many of them listed that I had to write them all down. I couldn't remember them all because you're involved with so many things. So, amongst all of them, would you care to talk
Yeah.
about like each one of them and your involvement in each one? Because it looks really interesting what you're involved in.
Yeah, well, I mean, Theatre Delhi's in Sheffield. Um, so I've tried to do a couple of things with them over the years. Obviously, Amethyst Productions. You'll notice anyone who's sort of looked on my spotlight and my resume, my show reel, and my CV. A lot of the stuff I've done with Amethyst has been a lot of the shorts I've done. Um, they basically filled out my first show reel. I'll be honest. And they were based in Leeds. They've now unfortunately closed their doors. Sam, who owned and operated Amphis Productions, as he sort of after COVID, he unfortunately picked it to chose a different area to go into. So unfortunately, Amphis is there no more, which is a big bummer because it was great and there's a lot of great people in Amphis. In terms of obviously some of the other ones that you've mentioned, obviously I was also part of what we call Our Kid Films, which is now Our Kid Productions with Stephen Harrington. I was part of that for a few years, um, which was great. Our Kid Productions is still going. I'm not with them anymore, but they're still going. So I always wish them the best because they're really good at what they do. Um, to be fair, the reason why I'm sort of affiliated with quite a few people is because of networking. I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to have met some great people. Um, I've been part of Nexus Film networking event, which is a great networking event for anyone who's in the UK, who's from the Midlands. That's based in Nottingham. I'm from Yorkshire, but I travel down from Yorkshire, Nottingham, or like as much as I can. They're great. Emlyn, big shout out to you because you're doing really well. And Nexus is your baby, basically. But yeah, like I said, I've just been lucky. I've been lucky to do to work with them. There's DLT, Doncaster Little Theatre, which I was part of for many, many years. It's where I first started. There's JKL, which Ben Blunt is part of. Um, so hopefully in the future I might do some things with them locally. Um, we'll have to see. I mean, I'm always up, like I say, for collaborating with anyone, new people and old. So yeah.
Mhm, mhm. So all of these different groups that you're involved in, you mentioned you're in Yorkshire. So um, the location of those is quite spread out, right? I mean, it's some of them
Yeah.
are quite a distance from where you are, so there's a bit of traveling involved, right, to get to some of them.
Hey, sometimes you gotta travel.
Yeah, well,
I
that's
mean,
true.
like Sheffield is only 19 miles away from me, so it's not too far. Um, Leeds, which is where I currently train, I train at up North Leeds. That's about 40 miles away from me. Obviously Nottingham, that's I think it's about 60 miles away from me actually. Obviously I do some stuff when I can. I'd love to be able to do more stuff, but some stuff
Mhm,
obviously like more like Lancashire sort of area, so that's a good 100 miles away from where I am. But
mhm, mhm,
London, I've done did a monologue jam down in London a couple of years ago, which was great. Met
mhm.
some great people there. It's obviously just uh, you've got to travel to where the work is. You've got to travel to
That's right.
obviously to
That's right.
network, and so I really don't mind. Like it's hey, it's a trek.
That's right.
Some of them are a trek, but
That's
some are two
right.
trains
Well,
away. But
yeah.
I do it.
Yeah, whether you have to drive or take a train or take a plane, yeah, yeah, definitely, I agree. You have to go with the work is. I know I've seen in a few posts there you take. I think this one post that I especially remember. I think you were going off to one of these theaters or one of the projects that you were involved in, and you took a selfie of yourself in the train. So I guess you spend quite a bit of time on trains, right? To where
I know the train timetables pretty well.
not to say that you don't have them memorized, right? Not to that point, or yes.
No, well, depends. Leeds one I do, but everything
Uh,
else I don't. Everything else I got to sort of check on the day. But Leeds one I pretty know it's going to turn up at this time on this day.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So all these different groups that you belong to, like that short film group, and then like the theater groups, are those um, uh, say groups that you discovered on your own, or did somebody know about them that you knew and told you about them?
Well, especially with like things like Theatre Delhi and obviously some of the theatre work I've done in London. I found them out from people that I knew. Um,
Mhm.
there's an actress who's actually a part of the same agency as I am, and named Agatha. Shout out to you, Agatha, if you ever watch this. And she is from London. She lives in London. So in terms of obviously the immersive theatre that I've done, the and also the monologue jam, she actually got me involved with that. So shout out to her.
Mhm.
And some of them I've found myself, but I'll be honest, most of them I have found through networking,
Oh
through
yeah.
collaborations.
Yeah, I mean, networking, yeah, very important. It's like I don't know if you found out the same case in your career, but it seems like more often than not, a lot of the work that we get comes from people that we know, right? In
Yeah,
addition to going for auditions, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, it's collaborating and
So
networking
yeah, so important.
is like you say, so it's so important, but it's kind of the backbone a
Yeah.
lot of it is of this industry is who you know
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
what not it's
Yeah,
not what you know, it's who you know.
it's who you know, right, 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 right. So all like especially the theater, those theater groups that you belong to that we mentioned. Uh, are their productions more like say like regular plays, or do they involve musicals as well? Uh,
Some of the theatre production groups that I know of and some of the theatre production companies I know of, they do both. They do fit like straight plays and they
mhm.
do musicals, musical theatre. Um, I am, I mean, I can dance and I can act, but I cannot sing. So, I've not actually done a musical.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like a lot of us, we kind of downplay the talents that we have, and a lot of times what we think doesn't go over that well might go over well to others that see us. So
Maybe.
you might be a triple threat yet, like they say, acting, singing, and dancing. So you
Yeah.
might be a triple threat yet, but you don't know it yet,
Well, we'll have to find out. We'll have to see.
Yeah. So in addition to all this that you do, acting, theater, and films in your podcast, I happen to notice, and this was very interesting when I noticed this. I happened to notice one of your posts talked about that you've been involved in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, if I can say
Yeah.
it, if I can say it right, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Um,
Yeah.
how the I know there's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the Japanese version. So,
Yeah.
how do the two of those differ? What's different about
Um,
each one of them?
they are very similar. With Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, obviously it started with a what they call the Gracie family, which is out of Brazil. They were lucky enough to have someone from Japan actually in Brazil. I think it was in Brazil. I don't know the complete history of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but they sort of took Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and they refined it. They took out a lot of because obviously Jiu-Jitsu itself, a lot of the stuff is from Judo because it is Japanese. So a lot of throws and holds are from Judo, and a lot of them worked for people who are really muscular and really built. And a lot of them didn't work at all for people who were smaller and physically weaker, people say. With Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's everything has been refined. So a small person, I know people who I roll with who are 5'5", 5'6", maybe even 5'4", who maul me and destroy me and
Really? Wow.
kick my backside. And I'm 6'4" and I'm 75 kilos, 74 kilos, and they're like, what, 50, 60 kilos, and they just ravage me because they're
Wow.
just, it's
Wow.
all technique. It's technique over power with
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. It's like
Uh-huh.
a lot of people are like, well, and when people say obviously technique over power, everyone thinks like karate and stuff like that. And it's like, no, it's like literally like if you try and do something to some of these jiu-jitsu guys, they just sort of laugh at you because there's nothing you can really do. I mean, it's it's a lot of it is like a lot of the differences is mainly what they call no-gi jiu-jitsu, which is what I do, which in Japanese jiu-jitsu it was all in kimono, all in the gi. Whilst Brazilian jiu-jitsu, there's both gi and no-gi, so it's there's some similarities, there's some differences, but everything was derived from Japanese jiu-jitsu, so it's sort of they sort of took the best bits and sort of left the stuff that didn't really work, and
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
got obviously what you get Brazilian jiu-jitsu today, which is obviously it's been around for a while. It's not been around for that long. It was made very famous in the UFC in the 90s. So it really started to pop about. And you saw a lot of obviously like a lot of gyms opening in America, like in California and stuff like that, from the
Mhm. Mhm.
Gracies who were in America at the time. And it sort of spitballed over. I mean, the guy who I'm still only a white belt, two stripes. I'm not a black belt or anything like that by any standard. But the guy who trains me is a guy called Charles Martin, who was one of the first British black belts in Britain. Um, one of the top competitors, one of the top fighters. He's been around the block a couple of times, a very, very tough guy. And I owe my jiu-jitsu to him. And I've been lucky enough to compete. And the guys that I train with, like they compete at a pretty high level. Like there's guys who are like 16, 17 that are coming out of my gym that are
Really?
like
Wow.
they're like purple belts already, and they're some of the best in the north. Some of
Mhm.
them are like well up there. I could give the best in the north a good scene to, but like it's
Mhm.
yeah, jiu-jitsu is a good thing because it helps with acting as well. Because obviously with having a martial art, having that skill,
Right.
because I'm in the current state of trying to get some qualifications in stage combat, and having obviously a jiu-jitsu background, it does
That's
help. Obviously I've also done like kickboxing, done taekwondo, obviously as a young kid. But it does help, yeah, with stage
Mhm.
combat. I mean, when I finally get my certificates and finally get like a stage combat qualification, I'll be able to put that on my spotlight, and it'll help for obviously future roles.
Oh,
So
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
so everything's a stepping stone.
yeah. No, definitely. I mean, it definitely. I mean, the more skills that you have in your toolbox, I mean, the more attractive you're going to be to land roles because they
Yeah,
can see that you know how to do like a whole set of skills and yeah, no, that'll definitely benefit you a lot. And so, like in the UK, is jujitsu fairly popular in the like a widespread practice art?
it is pretty popular to be honest. I've been to competitions where there's well over 70 gyms from all across the
Wow.
UK that have all just come. I went to Manchester to what they call Empire Grappling, which is a grappling tournament up there, and there was a good close to 60 to 70 gyms that come from London, that come from Scotland, and Newcastle. And I've had some that have come from like Northern Ireland that have like just
Hmm.
come over, just popped over on a plane to Manchester, and yeah, so it has become really popular in the UK. Obviously, you've got I've well, I know of him. I know him a little bit. I don't know him very well, but Mark Dyer Casey, who is a UFC fighter, he is from Doncaster. I at one point I was trying out at a gym that he was at. But I know people who obviously have sparred with him and trained with him, but he trains now in Manchester. So yeah, I know quite a few. Yeah, it's quite widespread.
Yeah. So, with all this time that you've dedicated to it, how did you first become interested in it?
um,
To add to your skill set or
it's well, it
improve?
was to add to my skill set at first, but like I came across it because I knew I just because I'd done obviously martial arts when I was younger, and
Mhm.
I wanted to really try and get into a martial art like something that like I could really stick with. And jujitsu just sort of stuck out for me because I'm not overly like built, so like striking and stuff like that just didn't seem to really work for me. So I can strike a little bit, but like yeah, grappling sort of works because I can sort of
Mhm.
use my well, sort of my height and my weight to my advantage and
Right,
stuff like that.
right.
So it sort of works better.
Well, I mean, I
But
guess
yeah,
with time after you practice something for a while, you become comfortable with it enough, and probably somewhere along the line, those skills will just come out naturally, because you've been doing it so long, or you've attained like a certain amount of levels on the belt ladder. So
yeah,
maybe it'll just come naturally to you one day.
yeah, it
No,
will do one day. I mean,
yeah.
it's I'll be honest because I know that I know me personally, I'm not the most like disciplined person in the world. Jiu-jitsu helps with discipline certainly
Yeah,
because it's not even just a from a sort of a kooky sort of
yeah,
rubbish sort of
yeah,
side where it's
yeah.
more like you have to put in the work.
Hmm.
So it helps with my acting as well because it over the years it teaches you sort of how to sort of hold yourself accountable. So
Right,
it does
right,
help.
right, right. I think probably like not only jujitsu, but the art of karate. I think a lot of times, say young children that get involved, maybe their parents see that they're not focused. So, yeah, like you mentioned, that it gives you focus and discipline, and I think that follows along the same lines when parents get their children involved to make them
Yeah.
focus and discipline. So that's a very good quality of it. Sort of a side benefit. Not only do you learn about the art, but it kind of helps you, kind of helps you personally as well. So,
Yeah.
in your acting or in your life, really. Um, like besides wanting to be more disciplined, faced some challenges along the way in your life. I read in one of your posts that you have both dyslexia and dyspraxia, and
Hmm.
so I was just wondering what challenges have you had to overcome in order to succeed in your acting career, having to deal with those two factors?
Yeah, I mean, especially with dyslexia, being a dyslexic actor can be tough because I am neurodivergent, and with dyslexia, it's reading and writing, and obviously as well spelling. So I also write as well as act. So that's something that obviously I got into during COVID, because obviously because of what COVID sort of did to the industry. But with dyslexia, it's having to really find a way that worked for me for learning lines. Everyone sort of has their own little ways, but with dyslexia, I've really had to sort of really take sort of a step back at look at things sort of from a different perspective to try and learn lines and sort of just be able to develop a character. Because when I'm when I write too much, when I'm writing, when I'm sort of doing like character analysis, I get burnt out quite easily. But if I'm typing, it's a completely different story. I could type for hours, whilst actually physically writing, and I can't really do for very long. And not just that, I can't even read my own writing, like if I'm honest. So I've I've had to find different psychological ways of working and how my mind would work. As well as with dyspraxia is coordination. So a lot of the challenges that I've had with dyspraxia have been mainly from sort of when I've done physical theatre or when I've done like obviously like dance growing up, like just not being able to be coordinated and be able to keep up with everybody else. And I have to find like a different way of being able to sort of express myself using that, as well as obviously with dyslexia, it's affected me not just in my acting life, but also in my personal life. As growing up, I could never be at the standard of like the what people would devise to be like the academic smart people in school.
Mhm.
I was never academic. I'm intellectual. I'm smart. I mean, I could always be smarter, but I'm not academic. So I struggled greatly at school
Mhm.
because of my dyslexia. Needing extra time, special because obviously dyslexia is a learning difficulty. So having extra time from exams and stuff like that. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I mean, if I could go back, I wouldn't change it because I wouldn't be who I am because without it. But
that's right.
I would have loved like different ways of sort of be able to cope with it, and if the education system could have helped more. But
Yeah, yeah,
that's just part and parcel of life. You just got to sort of
yeah.
take the hits and keep going.
Well, I think all of us feel that way, whatever challenges that we have to deal with in our lives. I think all of us, sometimes we look back and, it's like in the past, if we had 2020, 2020 mental vision for the future, we look back in our past and a lot of us, a lot of times, we feel that there's something that we would change like for the future. So I think all of us, feel like that,
Yeah.
occasionally one time or another. And like with dyslexia, I know one of my relatives, um, she's always had trouble with like mathematics. And so like when she was in school, she knew what the answer would be, but it's like the numbers would be transposed, and so
Yeah.
she always had difficulty learning that. And even to this day, she's a much older person, and she works like in a store, and she likes to do all the other jobs, but the thing that she doesn't look forward to is if she has to like work at the counter where the cash register is. So
Mm,
she still deals with that, transposing numbers and things like that.
yeah.
And since you mentioned dyspraxia, um, has that been like an extra challenge? Well, you mentioned about the physicality of it, like if you're involved in productions. So, has you mentioned that you're quite tall, 6'4". Uh, has your height like contributed uh, extra to the challenge of also having
And
dyspraxia?
I wouldn't I wouldn't say it's contributed massively to it, but it's like because obviously I've got quite a wide gait when like
Mm.
walking, and I mean it's funny now, but like looking back at it, I could never walk in a straight line. Like like it was yeah. I mean there's times where it was like that walking down the street, but yeah, it's not really been a massive sort of obstacle being tall with it. It's it's more just sort of like, for example, like you can see like I'm doing this with one hand, you can see this hand is moving. Like it's like things like that is part of what dyspraxia is. It's
Okay,
coordination, it's your nervous
okay,
system. Um, so it's yeah, I mean,
yeah,
luckily I've not had much issue with it from height wise, but I know people who have dyspraxia who have it more severe than what I do.
right, right,
And so yeah, it's I mean it affects people differently. Dyslexia does as well.
yeah,
You mentioned like your relative, like I'm rubbish at math. I'm crap at maths. I hate maths. I always have done
yeah.
because I can't see number sequences. So I can't do percentages. Even
Hmm.
as if even as an adult, I can't do percentages. I just can't get my mind around it.
Right.
So I have to sort of like because my day job, I work at a call center. Like we have to deal with maths on a sometimes, and yeah, it just bamboozles me. Just yeah, just my mind just goes.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you you find ways around it.
Oh yeah, yeah. We all, I mean, we all work around whatever, challenges we have, physical or mental. So we might not go maybe the typical straight line from A to get to B, but there might be a few detours and curves along the way, but
Yeah.
eventually
Oh,
we all get to the same place. But yeah, we just have to figure out a way to get there. That's all. To do the
yeah.
best we can. And no, I mean I'm glad that you wanted to talk about this because like all my guests, I always like with you as well, I give you an idea of what I want to talk about and ask you. And so that was one of the questions. So I'm very glad that, you wanted to talk about, your personal struggles. And I think anybody out there that has the same challenge with dyslexia or dyspraxia, I think uh, what you talked about is going to help them in some way because they'll probably figure, well, gee, I'm dealing with the same situation, so if he can do it and succeed, and an actor and this and that, well,
Well,
I can
yeah.
do
I
it too.
mean,
So you know,
yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. A lot of people have sort of looked down on me, and a lot of people still do in many respects because um, people underestimate me because they think, oh well, he's dyslexic or he
yeah,
must be dumb. No, I think you'll find that I remember there's a dyslexia institute that's in Sheffield, and because that's where I was diagnosed, and on the wall was every single famous dyslexic person. You've got
oh,
Cher, who was dyslexic. You've got Muhammad Ali, one of the most famous boxers, who's most famous for tying people up with his words.
yes,
He's dyslexic. So when people like look at people like and think, oh well, he must be dumb. Like, do you
yeah,
think you could win a word battle with Muhammad Ali if he's
right. No,
dyslexic?
you couldn't. No, no,
He,
no, no.
yeah, no, it's like things like, and a lot of dyslexics are highly intellectual.
Yes, yes.
Cher is actually obviously a famous singer, but she's actually very, very, very intelligent. So
Hmm.
Isaac Newton, they say he was dyslexic. Like, and as you can clearly know, so Isaac Newton, laws of
Hmm.
gravity. Like, it's little things like that where like sort of people sort of should take a step back and go, you should be careful what you say because
Right, that's right.
a
That's
lot of
very true.
like I've been bullied a lot of my life, and at the same time as not enjoying that and hating it, if I could sort of go back in time to my 11-year-old self and go, well, you're gonna do this, and this, when you're older, keep going. I think it would. Yeah. If I can do it, then anyone can. So if anyone who is suffering with, um, be it to be fair, I suffer with mental health. I have depression, anxiety. So if anyone whoever wants to talk, not even just about acting or about anything, drop me a message. I'm happy to listen to anyone and try and help whatever and however best I can.
Right. Well, yeah, that's great. I think whoever out there that's listening, they're going to appreciate that a lot because now they know they can actually have a person that they can have a dialogue with to like work out, tell you their problems, work out, and you can give them advice. If I can succeed, you can succeed. So the Facebook and Instagram page, your page names that I give at the end of this podcast interview, all of you out there, if you're listening, if you have anything that you're dealing with, dyslexia, dyspraxia, yeah, get a hold and contact Alexander. His Facebook and Instagram pages are at the end of this talk show at the closing credits. So look him up, contact him, and he'll listen to you and give you some advice to help you on your way to succeed with whatever your goals or your focus is, in your life. So I thank you very much, Alexander, for sharing all of this. I'm sure someone out there is really going to benefit, from what you've been talking about. So yeah. So thank you for that.
Very welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the future, what I don't know if you are at liberty to say, as they say, but like, are there any future projects that you have planned that you'd like to or are at liberty to talk about?
Well, I think you and me both know we have one coming up quite soon because we're both in one of them for Loud Voices Silent Streets,
Yes, yes,
um,
yes.
which well, there's that one that's coming up. That's a
Tell them, give them a shameless plug. Tell them what it is.
well, if you like, look on Instagram for Loud Voices Silent Streets, or you can on Facebook. There is a great piece that's coming up, which is going to have me and our dear host Edward in. And I mean, you can tell them the name because I know when I say the name, it doesn't sound great, but like because when I start to say something, I probably will end up screwing it up with the way I say it. But so go on, Edward, give us the name of what we're both in.
Okay, let me just see here. Let's see. It is called "This Doesn't Work for Me," and it's about a small town that's having some. Without going into too much detail, it's a small town that's having some troubles of its own, and it's about individuals in that town who each of us play uh, uh, in this audio. It's an audio drama. Each of us play a character in there, and we're all dealing with how to turn the whole situation around and to help our town get back on its feet from the challenges that it's facing. And I just, I just happen to have the post in. I just happen to have the post in front of me here, and um, it's it's well, we haven't started any rehearsals or or anything like that yet. But it's guaranteed to be a good audio drama. one of a
Yeah,
series of audio
it's something
dramas.
that people should really keep a good close eye on.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, because yeah, we'll be posting about it as more things to as more things develop. So it's just about how each of us just kind of deals with the situation of getting our town back on its feet from a tragedy. And so, yeah, I'm glad to be in that project with you and everybody else that's in it. And
yeah, it's going to be a great
it
experience.
is,
I
it
mean,
is.
I'm also working on at the moment. I'm also because obviously, like I said earlier, I'm a writer. Um, I'm writing a couple of short films, which obviously when they are at a decent level, I will then be casting for, as well as I am also writing a feature film, which I've been writing for quite a while now, called The Laughing Girl, which is based around a dear friend of mine who unfortunately committed suicide in 2018. And it's about it's more of a romantic drama sort of storyline. And it's it's about how relationships really work and how it's not all happy and dandy and there are twists and turns. Um, and it's just about how people should treat each other in reality. Even though people don't, but that's a project that's very close to my heart. And when I do start to cast for that, you'll be seeing it across Instagram, Facebook. You'll be seeing it on everywhere that I can post it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great too because especially in today's entertainment environment, it's they always recommend that it's a good thing to create your own content, right? Not wait around for somebody to for auditions or casting calls, which of course we all need and look forward to. But in addition to that, it's good to create your own content, like you with your podcast and your writing and your films, and uh, myself here creating this talk show, having another avenue besides my acting and other things that I do. So, yeah, it's always a good thing to create your own content, and I think you would agree with that, right?
No, wholeheartedly. As an actor, you can't just sort of sit on your laurels. You've got to be able to create your own stuff.
Mhm.
Like like obviously in this industry, it's tough. It is a tough industry. So whatever you could do to sort of sharpen your tools and sort of stay sharp at the same time, and that you've got to do it. Like I
That's right.
write as well as obviously with the podcast that I'm trying to get off the ground, as well as that. Um,
Mhm.
like that's what you've got to be. You've got to, as an entertainer, as someone in this industry, you've got to be willing to, like you've said, and like we both said, you've got to try different things. You've got to be open. You've got to have an open mind.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
it does really help to have
yeah.
a chance to sort of create your own stories and tell your own
Hmm.
stories and tell your own truth.
That's right. Right. And I mean, like it's been said before, like you were saying, not to rest on your own laurels. Uh, I've often heard it said that you're only as good as your last project, right? Whether it's a stage or film, it's like you can't say, "Well, I just finished a play" or "I just finished a film." Uh, that that was the best right there, and you can't leave it at that, right? You gotta keep on going and
Mhm.
keep either keep on improving or keep on doing what you've been doing at the same level, but at the same time always trying, like,
Oh
to
yeah,
improve, to take it to the next level. Yeah, yeah.
you got to be ambitious.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would really like to thank you, Alexander, for being on my show today. It's been an extreme pleasure talking with you. Like I mentioned before, we've been in other things together, other productions, or now the this next upcoming audio drama production with Loud Voices, Silent Streets. But I've never had the opportunity to actually talk one on one with you, even though we've we've shared the Zoom screen, but with all the other cast members and
Yeah.
things that we've been involved. So it's really been an extreme pleasure talking with you. And I appreciate very much you coming on here and talking about the challenges that you face and
Yeah.
overcoming them with dyslexia and dyspraxia.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, Edward. Thank you very much for having me on.
Well, thank you very much for accepting my invitation. So I wish you much luck in your career. And my name is Edward S. Redcar. I'm the host of Edward S. Redcar's Entertainer Chat. And I've been speaking with Alexander Clark today, who is an actor, and now I discover a writer, and now a filmmaker, voiceover artist, practices Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which I did not know about that before. So that's something else I learned. And so until the next time when I have my guest on, we hope to see you next time. And have a good day, and so long.